Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for bearing with me there. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you to seeing all your comments coming in already. Please let us know where you're joining us from this evening. I did notice that someone's joining us from Cornwall, so that's very good to see. That's near where I live. And one thing you might notice behind me is I've got my lamp back on. So although it is still quite hot down here in Devon, I wonder if autumn is on its way. Right, I know we're all here to talk about whiskey, so let's introduce our first guest. I'll do the coin toss and we'll see. It's tails, so we're going to the explorer first. So let's welcome in our first guest.
Hello, James.
Hey, how you doing, David? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. I'm very jealous of your lamp. I need a little
Ah,
bit more brightness in behind me.
it,
It is brighter in here, but yes, it looks more like a whiskey cave at the minute.
it's looking quite nice here, isn't it? Gives me a nice little glow.
It's
Um, David, where are you joining us from today, and what whiskey are you going to be sharing with us?
So I'm joining from London, not as my accent would suggest, more of a Dublin accent, but I'm joining from London and I'm representing Teeling whiskey.
Nice, nice. Okay, cool. Um, so tell us a little bit about Teeling, because I feel like it's the kind of, how should I put this? It's a brand name that I reckon everyone recognizes and knows, but maybe doesn't actually know a lot more than that.
Sure, sure. So Teeling, oh God, where do we start? God, we could go into the history. God, we got so much to get through. Teeling is a relatively new whiskey in a sense, right? It was well, God, it spearheaded the revival of Dublin whiskey, right? So for 125 years, there was no whiskey produced in Dublin. That's not to say that there was no Irish whiskey produced in general. It was just produced outside by the big three. The mega giants, Jameson, Bush Mills, etc., etc. But there was no Dublin-based whiskey. So Teeling is credited with reviving that Dublin whiskey scene. Started in 2012. The distillery was built in about 2015. But the first whiskey release was in 2013, which was our small batch, which you've probably heard of. It's our most famous whiskey, actually, quote unquote, the most awarded whiskey in the entire world, which is good. Which is good. I've set myself up there to only downhill from here, isn't it,
Yeah,
James?
what a peak. Well, I'm always very keen for all of us to start trying our whiskey early. So I think we'll do that now.
Yes.
Could you take us through what we should be
Yeah.
smelling, what we should be tasting, and also let's bear in mind that maybe a lot of us have been exposed to Scotch single malt. So maybe what would be the differences that we would come to expect from something like Teeling?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, God, tasting it at the beginning is the way to go. I was going to bore you with 35 minutes of Irish whiskey history, not let you drink until the very end. But no, I'm glad you got this
We can
moving.
still get to the history, but we should probably have a little sip first.
I was going to say history is easier to take with a little dram, isn't it? Okay, so I just mentioned the small batch, right? What we're not tasting that today. We're actually tasting the pot still, right? So it's kind of like quintessential indigenous Irish whiskey, right? So basically, to not get too nerdy, the mash makeup is 50% malted, 50% unmalted barley, um, and triple distilled, as you'd expect from a beautiful Irish Dublin whiskey. It's triple distilled at Teeling's distillery in the Liberties in Dublin, so right in the heart of the city. And it's matured across American virgin oak, ex bourbon barrels, and also sherry casks, right? So really adventurous, and I think the more we discuss Teeling, you'll find out just how adventurous they are, right? So a little bit more nerdy info here. It's bottled at 46 ABV. It's non-chill filtered, so spirit of integrity. Um, as I mentioned here, it's super indigenous to Ireland, right? It is what you expect from an Irish whiskey. Super duper welcoming. On the nose, You're going to get fruity, kind of grapefruit, lychee, a little bit of spice. Spice is more um, on the palate, should I say. But you're going to get a bit of that kind of cream soda creaminess. Basically, the unmalted barley is what gives it that kind of creaminess, that cereal character, and that kind of peppery spice quality that's associated, I suppose, with the style, right? But I mean, it's all subjective. What do you get, James? I could talk for hours.
It's I get a little bit of spice actually on the nose for me
Yeah.
this evening, and also I sometimes like to talk about like sort of like feelings and things. So a little bit dry comes across as dry to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I get lots of peach, kind of poached pear, kind of cooked cereal, thick creaminess on the palate. It's very, very thick, right? Fruity, thick. I'm seeing some of the comments. Plum, you're dead right. Absolutely. It's a little bit of kind of winter spice as well, which I
mhm.
do commonly associate with Irish whiskey, right? Because if you want to make the perfect Irish coffee, oh God, Teeling, pot still, or small batch would be your way forward, and at such an acceptable price. Look, I'm not a salesman. I'm not a salesman, okay? But it is
I get a
wonderful.
lot of pear crumble. Is something
Correct.
that really comes to my mind. I'm lucky enough to have a pear tree, and
Wow.
I can already smell picking the pears, but then also cooking them.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about whiskey is it can be so emotive,
Yeah.
and that's a very unique taste and memory to me. But
Yeah.
rocketing through now, I think what we should talk because we're going to delve into the taste and you're creating this picture of Dublin, but we must talk about triple distilled
Yep.
because it's a very important part of Irish whiskey,
Yeah.
and I don't know if we've really covered it before. So I wonder if you could go into depth maybe about what that is and what it brings to a whiskey.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, when we talk triple distills, we're talking welcoming, right? It's going to be super smooth. It's not that, it doesn't have that roughness of the column still, right? It's also one of the reasons why it takes, so bloody long to make, right? And it has to be so precise as well. So it's basically going through three levels of distillation, right? Where the spirit becomes just a bit smoother, creamier. We're not taking stuff away here. We're going to keep it right as it is. But what you want to get from a triple distilled is that kind of, what would you say, sweetness, creaminess, a lot of balance, natural character, etc., etc. We don't want to get too nerdy, but it's kind of almost silky sweet, right? You don't know if you've had a whiskey. That's not saying that like creamy nuttiness. I've seen that comment. Absolutely spot on. But look, it's that welcoming note that you'd expect to get from an Irish whiskey. And it's not saying that it's not challenging, right? Because look, we're using three different sorts of cask there, right? We've got a virgin American oak as well. We've got ex sherry. We've got bourbon. They're all adding to it. But that triple distilled, that triple pot stilled, that's the basis of your whiskey, right? It doesn't have to be like that, right? But you'll find in Irish whiskey, we're super proud of it because you want to go in, we want to sip it. If you're mixing it, we want it to accentuate the other ingredients in that cocktail, right? Because we're not how would you say, we're not precious, a lot of the time about how we drink it. It is however you want, but we do have great, what would you say? We want our spirit to be absolutely beautiful, and that starts at the very, very start, right? And that's where the triple distilled comes into it. And it's not saying that you have to have a triple distilled for it to be beautiful, but God, it bloody helps.
So yeah, so we've on this show before we've talked about single malts, especially from Scotland, being made in a pot still.
Yep.
So we're using the same sort of process there, but with single malts it tends to be just twice,
Yes.
but this is a third time. So every time we know that we get the heads, the hearts, and the tails. So
Yep.
we're always going for the bit in the middle, the hearts. Well, if you do that three times, you've got three choices each time. So you
Yep.
can really craft what you're getting out of the still, and often comes with a lot cleaner and a lot more fruitier, would you say?
Yeah, exactly that. Cleaner, fruitier. We like to say welcoming, right?
Yeah.
Because it's Irish whiskey. I don't. I'm staying away from breakfast whiskey, but look, at the same time, there's that air of complexity that goes with this specific pot still, right? You are getting that unique spice but you're also getting the creaminess from that kind of unconventional mash bill. It's 50-50. It's extremely even, right? So in no way is it trying to replicate kind of the red breasts or any of those pots as before. It's very, very unique, right? But back to your question, that triple distilled, look, you're going to get light floral aromas. You know that for a fact. That's coming off smooth and clean, soft, warm finish. These are all what you'd expect from a beautiful triple distillation. It basically produces a lighter, cleaner, fruitier spirit, as you mentioned yourself, right, with those kind of stewed pears. I always think of Christmas, but I think it is just my love of Irish coffees, maybe.
A wonderful thing. And
Yeah.
another aspect that is not unique to Irish whiskey, but is an important part there is the mash bill
Yep.
that you spoke about. We've become accustomed to Scotch single malts. It's just malted barley.
Yep.
But that's not what we're using here. So I wonder if you could, I know you've mentioned it a few times, but maybe delve a little bit deeper and maybe what's the difference between malted and unmalted, what they bring to the final spirit. That would be really great for our audience, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the mash bill is super important, right? We know that from whiskey. It determines, what what flavors you're experiencing on the nose, on the palates, the finish. Obviously the cask is playing a massive part in that as well. But effectively combining malted and unmalted barley and distilling them together in traditional pot stills, that unmalted barley is like largely responsible for the characteristics that I guess we just mentioned there, the creaminess, the cereal character, the pepper, the spicy quality, right? And having that 50-50 balance, right? Because unmalted and malted barley, not exactly chalk and cheese, but they are responsible for different flavor profiles, and having that balance, not just balancing in the final cask, but having that balance means the world to that whiskey, right? So a lot of what we're getting there, I mean, look, absolutely beautiful, so fruity on the nose. I'm even getting that kind of creaminess on the nose as well. But yeah, the unmalted barley is is largely responsible for that. Also, you know what? I don't want to brush over this, but the virgin oak as well, right? Like, we're not going to get too far into the cast detail, but that is super, super responsible for a somewhat like brighter, more assertive grain and spice driven, right? Because sometimes, if they're not virgin oak, they tend to not be overbearing, that's the wrong word, you know what I mean? But they really dominate. Whereas the virgin oak, you're getting that super, super clean nose, and that also complements the malt, right? Where you're getting that creaminess from the unmalt and that spicy, that malt is really benefiting from the virgin American oak. And Teeling whiskey, we will get into Teeling a little bit more as a distillery, but they're known for pushing the boundaries, right? And pot still was largely, it wasn't innovated on for as I said, 100 years. Do you know what I mean? This is our our category, our choice. The pot still is absolutely wonderful. And what we have done, I think you have it on the beautiful Whiskey Shop website, is the Wonders of Wood, which is the limited edition. It's the same distillate, the exact same distillate, but we use a different virgin oak, right, from a Swedish virgin oak to a Carpathian virgin oak. But what I want to make sure people understand is it's a sum of its parts, right? And every little detail shapes that whiskey, right?
Nice.
And the barley is, it's just one of those parts. But yeah, I wanted to get a little bit in on the cast there without getting too nerdy, should I say?
No, it's wonderful. So I think we're all primed and ready. We've all got our drams
Yep.
and we're sipping it and we've been introduced to it. So I feel like now is a prime time for you to give us a whistle-stop tour of
Thank
the
you.
history of Teeling.
This is the reason I just. Can you hear me? Okay. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
good?
we
Oh
can hear
God,
you. Yeah,
I
it's all
thought I
good.
thought I froze there. I got PTSD there from Zoom calls. You always freeze at the just when you're getting to the good part, right?
Yeah.
Um, right. So okay. So look, Irish whiskey history, right? We'll try and get this. finished in 10 minutes, right? Feel free to stop and ask questions, right, as we go in. But there's nothing like enjoying a perfect pot still, in my opinion, while listening to a bit of Irish history. So basically, we'll start in Dublin, right? So in the 19th century, Dublin whiskey was internationally prestigious, right? And the Liberties, which is where the Teeling distillery sits now, it also sat back then. We'll get into that, right? But it was the Liberties. The area was one of the great brewing and distilling districts. You might know a little stout called Guinness. That's kind of in the same area. It's only a small one.
Yeah.
It might take off. I don't know.
Yeah.
It might take off. It tastes all right. Not as good as pot still, but it tastes all right. But in the whiskey space, there was massive names like George Rowe, John Power. I think we know the Jameson family, obviously, right? They operated enormous distilleries, right? And by the late 1800s, Irish whiskey held a dominant share of world whiskey sales, right? People forget that, right? And there was a square mile. There was an area called the Golden Triangle, right? And hey, look, I've just seen the comment there. Add a wee drop of water. You can add that as well. As I said, it's 46%. It will certainly open it up, but 100%. Add a little drop of water. So there was about 35 to 40 distilleries in this one area, like a square mile. It was called the Golden Triangle, right? Absolutely unbelievable, right? So that's in the 19th century. Liberties was the heart of that industry, right? It was just, oh God, could you imagine the scent, the aroma walking through that area? God, malted, unmalted barley. God, you'd be happy. Be a good walk to work. So what I'll do is I'll give you a little bit of history on Teeling, right? So look, I did say it was 2012, right, when this project got started, when they opened the Teeling Whiskey Company, right? But we actually have to go back to 1782 to Walter Teeling. That's actually where the Teeling story began. 1782, he established a small distillery on Marrowbow Lane. So that's, look, Liberties, industrial heart of Dublin. I would say visit, obviously, our distillery, please do. But basically, modern Teeling distillery stands just a short distance from where he started, right? And it wasn't just a business for him; it was a labour of love, right? And it was a different style of whiskey, right? It wasn't as adventurous as Teeling is now. You know what I mean? It was a little bit more traditional, should I say? So I guess just for the notes, 1782 is when Walter Teeling opened his Dublin distillery. And then we'll fast forward to 2012, where the modern Teeling Whiskey Company opened theirs. And then 2015 is when we opened the actual distillery in the heart of Dublin, right? So Teeling is both an old name and also a very young distillery. So yeah, quite interesting in that regard. What I'll do is I'll give you a little.
Oh, you have broken up there, but fingers crossed David will be back with us as soon as possible.
Could you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Am I back? Oh God, sorry. Look, the 1800s. I'll get into it. If I'm breaking up, just let me know. Just let me know.
I will do.
So 1800s. Dublin had extraordinary distilleries, and the Liberties became known as part of that. That Golden Triangle, as I said. Basically, Irish was a powerhouse, international. Irish whiskey, absolute powerhouse. The share was roughly about 60 to 70% of the global whiskey sales were Irish whiskey. So people quite, they forget that. They automatically associate whiskey with Scotland, but in that late Victorian period, Irish whiskey was the giant, right? And then it collapsed. Shit, everyone take a little drink. It collapsed. Sad time, right? So it wasn't just a collapse. It was a succession of blows. Okay, just to give you a little bit of context, right? So there's a political upheaval, loss of important kind of British and Commonwealth markets following Irish independence, the U.S. prohibition as well absolutely floored us, because you could only imagine how enormous that export market was. Loads of Irish in America, and economic problems. Also, the church backed that little beer brand, the Guinness. They backed that to the wall. So there was a little bit Yeah, there was a bit of a fall out there, and Dublin, suffered particularly badly, right? So George Rowe disappeared, all the old Dublin giants kind of consolidated, and eventually Powers and Jameson actually moved out. Went to Cork, and they went to the countryside effectively, right? And basically everything disappeared in Dublin by the mid 1970s, right? It was quite unbelievable. So when I say Teeling was the first new whiskey distillery to open in Dublin in more than 125 years, I don't mean that Dublin had gone 125 years without any distillery operating. It was just rather than no new whiskey distillery had opened in that period. So nevertheless, there was roughly about 4 decades without whiskey production in Dublin by the time Teeling began distilling, right? A pretty monumental endeavour from Jack and Stephen Teeling. Quite incredible, right? And they've definitely they've definitely opened Ireland's young entrepreneurial whiskey enthusiasts' eyes, because since then there's been 35 to 40 new distilleries open, which is unbelievable, right? Pretty cool.
I find the Irish whiskey scene very exciting because,
Yeah.
as you kind of mentioned there, did have a big fall and kind of was dominated by some big brands for a very long time, which is kind of fine, but it does leave a bit of a vacuum, and it feels like actually that is now starting to be filled, and I find that really, really encouraging.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I was speaking to Jack many years ago, and he's seen those scenes in New York and in Paris and in London. Actually, was more with craft beer about 10, 15 years ago. Very, very exciting, and he thought, you know what, Irish whiskey needs that renaissance, needs that revival, and people must have thought he was mad, but it just shows creating absolutely fantastic whiskey, innovating on casks, etc., and making sure that your spirit is the best it can be with 46% non-chill filter, etc. It makes sense.
I would like to end on a little chat about Irish coffee, but before then,
Sure.
we've been enjoying this Teeling, and I think quite a few of us are going to want to explore more of the range of you guys. So I wonder if you could give us a little breakdown of, what else do you offer? Maybe what
Yeah.
we should be looking at, like really seeking out, because this is a fantastic whiskey, and at 46%, it has a lot to offer, doesn't it?
It really does. It's actually a really nice segue into a special that we're doing right now in the whiskey shop. I don't know if it's just on the online shop, maybe it's in stores, but if you do purchase a beautiful bottle of our pot still, you will get a Trinity pack, which gives you a taste, I believe it's a 5cl taste of the small batch, of the single grain and the single malt, right? So you're actually experiencing 4 out of the 5 extended core range there, which is quite fun. We also do a peated as well, which is unbelievable. It's it's a sweet white wine cask finish, right, with beautiful barbecued peat notes. It's absolutely wonderful. And as I said, Teeling whiskey, what I loved and what I love about it is how malleable it is, right? Because people are utilizing it in cocktails. We'll get onto the Irish coffee, right? Because look, I'll put my life on the line and say that it makes the best, the most delicious Irish coffee in the entire world, right? But what we have here is an incredibly adventurous whiskey where boundaries, it doesn't feel like they have any boundaries, right? They want to push them, because I do think Irish whiskey was somewhat, it stuck to that kind of rigid ideal for the 100 years. This is the way we do it, right? But Teeling definitely turned that on its head. So if you want to experience Teeling, I think pot still is a wonderful entrance to it. I would say go for small batch. It's a Central American rum cask finish. Oh, absolutely outstanding. They're all 46%. They're fantastically beautiful. I don't think you can miss. And when we talk about limited editions, we've got a gorgeous Rising Reserve, which is a 21-year-old single malt. if you have a few £1,000, you might be able to get one of the rarest single malts, which is our 40-year-old Teeling Irish whiskey. Just make a call there to James, and
Yeah.
he can sort a bottle out for you. But look, there's a fantastic amount of offering there from Teeling whiskey, and I know I work from the brand. One of the main reasons I wanted to work for Bacardi was because of Teeling whiskey, and getting to work with a brand that I love so much, and planning exclusives and limited edition launches is a fantastic way to spend your day, right?
So for everyone that's watching, just to make you aware that you will, as always, you'll get an email tomorrow about purchasing a bottle of Teeling, and you will actually receive that gift pack as well. So keep an eye out. I'm sure we'll all want a bottle of Teeling, and it'd be great to try that sample pack as well. Right, so everyone that watches this show knows that I love whiskey in all forms, very much enjoy it with a little bit of water, but I love cocktails as well. I know whiskey and soda is not a cocktail, but that's one of my go-tos. But one of my absolute favourites is the Irish coffee. I've been lucky enough to go to is it the Buena Vista in San Francisco, where they
Oh yeah.
make loads of them, and we couldn't really not cover the Irish coffee. So yeah, could you give us a little bit of give us a rundown of what it is, and
Sure.
maybe with Teeling the perfect serve as well?
I will definitely give you the perfect serve. Also, the Buena Vista in San Francisco, don't you get a chill when he does the hot coffee across the glasses and it's steaming hot and he's got his fingers so close on everything. It gives me PTSD, repressed memories, I don't know, from my bartender days. Okay, so look, the Irish coffee, right? Deceptively simple, but if you get it right, I think it is probably the best hot drink in the entire world. I haven't been paid to say that. I genuinely think it is. Look, there's no wrong whiskey really to use with it. What I would utilize though specifically is Teeling's small batch. One, super duper affordable. It's 46%. The Central American rum cask gives it that kind of winter spice, right? It gives it that warming quality that you want in an Irish whiskey. Ex-bourbon cask, creamy. You're getting that unmalted barley as well, so super duper creamy. That's what you want in an Irish coffee. When we talk about pot still, exactly the same, right? It's a little bit less on the spice because we don't have that Central American rum cask, but it's the cleanest Irish coffee, I believe, in the world. I mean, we just call it coffee in Dublin, but it is the cleanest Irish coffee. What I would do for a mix, right? If I'm at home, okay, we don't need to be super, super precious on coffee. What I do is I say, let's get the best bottle of whiskey we possibly can, right? So as I mentioned, small batch, pot still, two great contenders for Irish whiskey. Get some of the Nescafe Azura. As I said, brand wise, I'm not affiliated with them. They're absolutely great. What you do is you're putting a spoon or so in, you're mixing it with that small batch or that pot still. We're going to go 60 mil. Some people do 50 mil, we go 60 mil. Absolutely fine. If you want to use Demerara sugar, I think that's the way to go. Some people use Muscovado. I would do, and this sounds a bit odd, I would do a 50-50 or maybe a 40-60 coffee sugar ratio, because you want that sweetness, that the richness of the whiskey and the spice will come through. And then if you have one of those old school, the ketchup, what they used to get in like Eddie Rockets or those American diners, right, where they're kind of squirty, right?
Yeah.
So get one of them, okay? Pour your double cream. If you're vegan, pour your vegan double cream in. Shake it, shake it, shake it. Right? Shake it for about maybe 30 seconds or so it thickens up a bit, and then just squeeze it, right? Just over the kind of the rim of the glass, so it puts that perfect head on it. And then get some fresh nutmeg. Do your salt bear, your salt bay, isn't that what it is? Salt bay. God, he's been gone a while. But yeah, you salt bay it over the top. And I think that's the way you serve it. Super, super simple. Just remember, pick a really good whiskey, and then make sure that your coffee and your sugar dimensions or volumes are correct, right? That's my go-to. But any of the Teeling whiskey will suit it. But pot still and small batch, I think, are the two winners.
Oh, gorgeous. What a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much, David. And you're going to join us again at the end as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing this Teeling with us, a wonderful whiskey. and so interesting to hear about the rise of Dublin whiskey again and Irish coffee. So
Amazing. Thank you so much, James.
fantastic. Thanks so much. See you soon.
See you in a bit.
Gosh, wasn't that fascinating? Whiskey's such a wonderful drink, and it's always has such a rich history that's always attached to it, and it's always lovely to hear that, especially when you're sipping along. So we do have one more guest for you, and by the power of technology, they should be joining us now.
Hello,
Ah, look at that! Welcome, Felix. How you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, James. I've been having some technical issues on my end this evening. My internet cut out. We're quite old-fashioned here, and I think the chap who spins the crank that makes the Wi-Fi work went home about half an hour ago. So hopefully, I'm now in on my phone. I'm still having a few problems, but hopefully I'll manage to stay with you.
We will do our best, and we'll try and get as much information from you before you cut out as possible. So, Felix, where are you joining us from this evening?
So I'm in the offices here at Berry Brothers and Rudd. So we're a little wine and spirit shop on the corner of St James's Street in London. So we've been here since 1698. Family owned business, still owned by same family and operated by them day to day today. We started out in 1698 as a grocer selling coffee and teas and things like that. Then as time went on,
Oh, I'm not sure if you've cut out there, unfortunately. While we try and get you back, we'll maybe start drinking our whiskey here. So this is the Berry Brothers and Rudd Speyside 16-year-old. How are we doing, Felix? Are you able to join us again? Oh no, this feels like maybe we've lost him. Are you there, Felix? Oh, this is such a shame. So what for people that don't know, we were kind of covering it there, that Berry Brothers and Rudd is one of the oldest wine merchants in London, and very, very much worth visiting. If you are there, you just turn the corner down from the Ritz and make a way down there. They have their wine merchants, but actually they also have an impressive spirits collection as well. It doesn't look like Felix is going to be able to join us, so I'm really sorry about that. That's a great shame. But yeah, this is a Speyside 16-year-old, and just from smelling it there and tasting it, yeah, classic kind of Speyside notes there. So for Berry Brothers and Rudd, as they are a wine merchant, but they're also an independent bottler. An independent bottler is a very interesting sort of premise that doesn't really exist in any other industry that I know of. And that's where Berry Brothers and Rudd, as an independent bottler, they would actually go to a distillery and purchase a cask from them. They would then look after it themselves, and they would release it when they see fit. So unfortunately, yeah, Felix won't be able to be joining us, but what we will do is we'll bring in our previous guest, and we'll have a little chat and round off the evening. How about that? David, you're back so soon. Who knew?
I am back, and I was on mute. God, you'll be bloody sick of me.
Oh, thank you so much for your time this evening, David. We do have a tradition of asking the same question to everyone at the end. But before then, I just wanted, what are your thoughts on Berry Brothers and Rudd and what they're bringing to the whiskey scene? Because you're joining us from London, so I'm sure you're sort of aware of their fabulous shop, and maybe actually you could give us a little bit of colour around Berry Brothers.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I probably won't be able to give you as much colour
Of course.
as Felix. Look, Berry Brothers and Rhodes, what an exceptional company. If you haven't visited their store, as you said yourself, it's just down the road from the Ritz. I think it's on St James Street is
Hmm.
where it's located. It's 100% worth a look in. They have a fantastic selection of whiskey, and yeah, God, disappointed. I really did want to hear a little bit more about this Speyside 16 because their bottle picks are incredible, to say the least. They are one of the most trusted, or in the business for good reason. And as James, as you mentioned, yourself, it's a very unique way of doing business, isn't it? Independent bottlers, we have done releases with them before in the past. As I said, I work for Bacardi Martini, so I actually work with Aberfeldy, Craig Ellicky, Royal Brackla, Altmore, Dewars, Angels Envy, right? So quite a unique, beautiful portfolio. And Berry Brothers has always been really, really good to us and has purchased the likes of Craig Ellicky, Royal Brackla, and Aberfeldy casks from us in the past. So we're very, very, very familiar with their work, and the job that Felix does is absolutely incredible. I don't have that space side in front of me. Is it fruity? Is it delicious? Honey
Yeah,
and nuts, gorgeous,
it's everything that you would want it to be. Um, but
incredible.
it's interesting. In your portfolio, you mentioned one of my favourite distilleries. I won't say which one it is because I am
Oh,
impartial. We'll leave it
okay,
as a mystery.
okay.
Um,
So I'll go with Teeling. I'll go with Teeling
for
then.
Teeling.
That's
So we have a tradition where we always ask everyone, where do they see the whiskey industry going, and more importantly, where would they like to see it going? So it's kind of the same question, but
yeah.
different.
Right. So look, the whiskey industry is. I think everybody who works in my position and in job says it's waves, right? That's what it is, right? And I don't want to dwell on that period of COVID where people were inside a lot, but it was an incredible boom for whiskey, right? Because people suddenly had a lot of time, they had expendable income, which was fantastic. So they were buying very, very adventurous bottles. And sadly, that slowed down a little bit. You probably feel it yourself, James, over the last 2 years, 3 years. The squeeze is real, right? But what I'm seeing at the minute, and part of my job, not to be too self-referential, but it is an interview. In my job, we really have to think about the customer and the consumer, and how can you still, how can you create incredible, exciting limited editions and releases that are affordable for the general whiskey buyer right now, right? Because it's totally changed to 5 years ago, right? And in another 5 years, it'll most likely change again, right? But I think at the minute where I see it going, I see people being a little bit more cost effective. So I believe we're going to find some beautiful younger age statement releases from amazing whiskey producers, right? That maybe become a little bit more creative, that are slightly more cost effective. And where I would like to see it going is maybe in 5 to 10 years, I would love to see the big age statements come back, the 40-year-olds, the 45-year-olds. But ultimately, I just want whiskey to continue innovating. I don't want it to stagnate again, right? That's the big thing, and I think we have this wonderful community, and it's a worldwide community, right? But everyone is so knowledgeable these days. We have so much information at our fingertips that it's brilliant, right? It's becoming more challenging to the blenders because they have to keep searching for the new beautiful thing for a much more educated market. But what I hope is that we continue to innovate and the people continue to explore and speak about whiskies, and more shows like this become, well, more popular, and the conversation continues. That's really it. I hope that's not a political answer, but it's the way I feel.
It's a fabulous answer. David, thank you so much for this evening. It's been wonderful to talk to you, and thank you for sharing your wonderful whiskey Teeling. And I'm going to let you go this evening. I feel like you've done more than enough, but thank you so much, and I hope
It's
you
been
have
a
a lovely
pleasure.
evening. Thank you so much, David. Goodbye.
Thank you. See you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I know I say it every time, but I genuinely do love doing these shows. Like I mentioned previously, do keep a lookout for your emails because we'll give you an exclusive link to be able to buy both of these bottles at a really great price. And also we did mention that Teeling tasting set, so we'll honour that for any of you that purchase through Whiskey Me. Thank you so much again for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful evening and enjoy both your drams. And cheers.